Good morning, friends and fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for November 19th, 2024. Well, I hope everyone had a great day yesterday. Market was trying to rally, a little bit uncertain and probably waiting on the NVIDIA earnings. Today we have a major change in the market, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So hopefully today my tongue won't be twisted and tongue-tied with a bunch of stammering here as we get through the morning. Let's take a look at what happened overnight. Well, we started off with a pretty good note. Asian markets all moving up last night. We had Australia up 0.89%. The Nikkei was up 0.51%. India was up 0.28%. South Korea was up. Hong Kong was up. And even Shanghai managed a 0.67% rise yesterday. But then we start running into troubles. What happened is, with the president's decision to allow long-range missile use out of Ukraine, Russia has warned the United States that because of its new nuclear doctrine, that any strike inside Russia would be considered an act of war from the United States that provided the weapons to do that. So futures have really fallen. Right now, European markets, the DAX down 1.24%, the FTSE down 0.44%, and the CAC is down 1.30%. And U.S. futures right now are also decidedly bearish. Dow futures down 0.58%, S&P 500 futures down 0.39%, and NASDAQ futures down 0.26% on the rising geopolitical tensions. Even though we have some notable earnings this morning, right now that's not enough to pick our market back up. If we take a look at oil this morning, oil is moving lower. If we look at XLE had a really good day yesterday, but coming back down here, I'm guessing the geopolitical tensions adding to this problem. Right now we've got oil futures at 68.70 a barrel, down 47.5 cents. Brent crude is also down 43 cents at 72.87 a barrel. Interestingly enough, natural gas is continuing to show a little bit of bullishness this morning after a nice push back up and reversal yesterday. So looking good in natural gas at the moment. Now, when we take a look at precious metals had a tremendous day yesterday, pushing up sharply, and right now this morning gold futures are up $22.70 an ounce. Silver is also up, but copper, platinum, and palladium are slightly lower. But palladium was so huge yesterday, a little pullback could not be a major surprise. If we take a look at crypto this morning, well, we've got a little bit of a mix going on here in cryptos. BITO, or Bitcoin ETF here, as you can see, pushing on up as they continue to celebrate here in crypto. $326 a coin up this morning on Bitcoin. But Ether is down almost a full percentage point, 30.91. A little bit of mix going on in those cryptos today. Let's take a look at what's going on in bonds here this morning. Bond yields moving up. Our 2-year bond at 4.24%. Our 10-year is at 4.37, and our 30-year is at 4.57. Now, these are all lower than they were yesterday morning, but they have started to move back higher as a result of the geopolitical threat. So we'll have to keep an eye on that today. So what does all that mean for today? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Tuesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I very much appreciate it. How about we take a look at some charts here, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to shake off that bias. We want to look at the charts for what they are, not for what we want them to be. This morning, this is going to be a little bit unfortunate. We had that possible hold here in this area of support. The reversal this morning in the pre-market has us maybe breaking this support level in here and possibly falling into the gap. Remember, we gapped all the way up from here all the way up there in one fell swoop on the election, which means we really do have that potential now of once we drift into that gap, that we could fill it. Now, keeping in mind, we've got some support levels in between there to try and stop it. It's unlikely we go straight down there in a straight line, but watch that carefully. If we were to push on lower here, that's our next area of support, and then beyond that, we're really looking at probably filling the gap here in the chart. Now, if the bulls can respond back here and push this higher today, well, the first thing we need to do is get back up here, recover this little bit of support here in the chart, and then start working our way back up through some of this resistance here that we have created on the way back up. Now, you want to keep in mind, we kind of slipped this upside trend. So as we push back up, we're going to start running into levels of price resistance up here as well. And that's where that real threat comes in. Once you break a support level in the chart, you do have that problem where we can rally back, just run out of momentum, end up creating that lower high and turning back to the downside. So we'll have to keep a close eye on this if these geopolitical tensions continue to escalate here today. So watch that closely. Now, if we take a look at our SPY right now is doing okay, and that's a good sign, because what we're doing is we're setting right here on that little bit of price support in the chart. We haven't been able to break down below that, because if we were to break down below that, a quick push down into here and maybe even a full gap fill could be possible. And unfortunately, that would create kind of this lower high situation here in the SPY. So watch that carefully. Now, if the bulls can bounce off of this area of support, there's every reason to believe they could do that, push up off of here. First thing we need to do is we need to break above this resistance. And we have this little island up here. Now, it's not the clearest island like it is on the QQQ, but you can see we had a gap up here and a gap down here, leaving that island behind. So if we start pushing back up, we need to break that resistance and then push right on through, get through that gap up here to see if we can test this area of resistance in the chart, because that's going to be critical. If we create a lower high here, that could really be a problem. If we can push back through, well, maybe we can move on up there and retest those all-time highs. Now, our QQQ, as I mentioned yesterday, the most bearish of the indexes at the moment, because we did fail through this high support right in here. We popped through this level and left an island reversal behind here, as you can see. That's a very bearish pattern. And we also, in one fell swoop, we broke back down through that support and even closed below this support on Friday. Now, we started to bounce back up and hold right in here, and that is a good sign, trying to hold here. The QQQ is trying to reject this geopolitical situation here at the moment, but we'll want to watch that carefully. If the bears have anything to say today and we push back down, testing this area of support, well, that's a full gap fill in the QQQ, and I could not rule out the possibility. We're so close to filling the gap in the Qs that could not rule out the possibility of that situation. Now, my guess is if we moved on lower from here, pushing on down into this area, we would start raising some considerable fear in the market, because breaking on down and making a new low in here does reinforce that lower high that we see in the chart. So what if the bulls find inspiration today? If those bulls can hold on to this price support, the next thing we need to see for the Qs is to rally back up here and retest and maybe break back through this resistance high here in the chart. If we can push up through there, then we have that opportunity that we could break up in here and fill that gap up above into that island reversal. What we'll want to be watching though is that possibility as we rally back up, we could contact this area as a resistance and that trend break at the same time. And if we were to fail here, creating that lower high, that's where some real selling could come in if that were to occur. So kind of keep a close eye on that. And if we take a look at our IWM, old IWM also feeling a little bit of pressure and pain here, dropped through this support here in the chart, which was some of the highs of back there in 2021, pushing back down, and we could very easily here in that move today fill this gap on IWM. So we'll want to be watching that carefully today. Filling that gap and moving a little bit lower, we could come into this upside trend, but I think a little bit of fear might come into the market if that were the case. Now, if the bulls can find any inspiration here at all today, then that push back up, maybe to test this area of resistance in the chart, but we'll want to be watching that closely. Anywhere up in here that we show a potential failure could create that lower high, and possibly the hint of a downtrend could begin. So let's take a look at what we've got going here in our VIX. Our VIX did pop up a little bit with some fear yesterday and ended up selling back off by the end of the day as those bulls gained some ground and started pushing back up. But I'm going to show you that it really wasn't a widespread push to the upside. It was very contained in a small area of the market in the rally. So watching that closely here today, my guess is with the futures right now, Dow futures down 228 points, that we're likely to see this VIX bouncing back up into this area. Now, the reason that's important is if we continue to stretch on up, we might come up here into this resistance and maybe even pop through that, and we might start working for this gap fill here in the VIX. Now, keeping in mind, as that VIX starts to rise, all option prices go up in prices because of the implied volatility increase, the fear that we're seeing here in the market. Now, if those bulls have nothing to say, or have a lot to say, and they reject this geopolitical fear, and we continue to push back down, everything will be copacetic for that upside move, and we could continue to see that push to the upside if that fear dissipates. So keep a close eye on the VIX. Now, if we take a look at our T2122, T2122 gave us a little bit of clue yesterday that while we were getting a relief rally, it really wasn't anything more than a little bit of a relief rally, because we really couldn't get any energy into it. We pushed up here to about 40, which is, remember, 50% is the middle of the road here on T2122. Now, what that means is if the bulls can find inspiration, we certainly have plenty of upside opportunity for them to push. Unfortunately, what we're seeing this morning with the bears, we may have a pretty good downside opportunity to push as well. We've opened a bigger space for us to potentially move lower, so keep an eye on that. If we take a look at our T2108, well, this is where we have a little concern, because we saw that bullish move yesterday and everybody felt like, man, the market is really bullish. But the percentage of stocks above the 50-day moving average barely moved. We just didn't have any energy yesterday. We're still below 50% here in the chart. And my guess this morning is with this gap down and the geopolitical tensions, we're going to see a push lower here in T2108. So keep an eye on that today. We're not getting the bullishness that we were kind of hoping for maybe in that relief rally. And our T2107 also percentage of stocks above the 200-day. Although those indexes were bullish yesterday, we really didn't change much here in the market. Very small increase. But this is much better than the T2108 because we're still holding about 50%, that psychological level here in the chart. Once again, I'm guessing that with this push this morning, we could see this move lower. So hopefully we'll catch a little support here in the chart before we move on down toward that 50%, or we find that bounce here in T2107. Our T2101 did have a tiny little bit of push to the upside, and the biggest part of the rally yesterday was centered in the tech giants. So probably a little bit of corporate buyback activity going on in there to try and help support those stocks and get them to push higher, but we'll want to watch that pretty carefully here. Today's move could be substantial. We'll just want to watch that closely and see if that breadth continues to follow through and pushing us back up. If we see this breadth increasing on a bearish wave, that could embolden those bears. So keep a close eye on T2101 today. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here. In our economic calendar, well, we've got quite a little bit to be thinking about here today. First off, we've got a housing starts and permits number that, of course, could be very, very important to us. Right now, they're looking at those housing starts coming in at 1.3 million, permits coming in at 1.4. That is a slight decline over the past. Now, that may be good for the market right now to maybe see housing slowing down a little bit and not heating up. If this number were to come in hotter than this, that could raise some red flags on inflation. We might see those bonds react negatively to that. We've got an e-commerce retail sales number here today. We've got a treasury buyback going on again, bond announcements, and we've got Jeffrey Schmidt in here speaking today from the Fed. As we look into Wednesday, remember, we got to be thinking about those mortgage applications, Atlanta Fed business inventories, petroleum status, more Fed speak, some bond auctions, a Baker Hughes rig count, and a 20-year bond auction that could be interesting the way these bonds are acting here right now. So watch that carefully as we head into Wednesday. Let's take a look at our earnings calendar here for today. On our earnings calendar, kind of busy here today with some notables, but a lot fewer stocks than normal. First off, let's take a look at Lowe's. Lowe's has already reported this morning. They beat on estimates, but they guided lower, suggesting that their sales are likely to move lower because of the stress in the consumer. So right now, Lowe's looking a little bit lower here. And Walmart has already reported this morning, and they've beat estimates mostly due to their grocery sales. It seems like even the wealthier folks are moving to Walmart to get some better prices in their food, and that's really helping out Walmart here. So a nice little stretch in Walmart here this morning. Other than that, we're going to have reports from AS, ENR. We're going to hear from J. We've got Medtronic that will be reporting this morning, OCSL, VIK, VIPS, WB. Those are the notables for this morning. This afternoon, we will be looking for reports from ALC, AZEK, DLB, GBDC, KEYS, LVB, POWL. let's see, ZREX and ZTO. So keep an eye on, ZTO. Keep an eye on those for this afternoon. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button on YouTube and also click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful or helpful, if you could do me that favor, click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. That helps the channel to continue to grow. Hey, I want to say just a big thank you to everyone who showed up for the open house yesterday. Hope you got some good information, found some answers to some questions that you may have had. And I want to also remind everyone that we've got that special going on trial memberships. So come on back to the website. You've got the link. Come on back to the website, and we would love to have you become part of our team here for the next 30 days and for a whopping $7 charge. Boy, that's going to be the Black Friday deal of all Black Friday deals. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up for today. Remember, everyone, these are not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very, very careful. And remember that you should never, ever blindly follow anyone else's trade ideas. Follow your risk tolerance rules and your guidelines for trading. First off, let's take a look at something I put on the list here yesterday as a potential. Take a look at Intel. Intel's been chopping in this nice little consolidating mode here in the chart. It's still away from the trend, but I like the way it's still holding in there on support. I would be watching this for that little pop right in here. With today's bearishness, we could easily break that support a little bit, come back here to trend. But I think there's still plenty of time. Even if we do break down a little bit, we could come right back up and move through. So I would keep an eye on Intel. I think that's really starting to look good. As you guys remember, I've been talking about the potential here in FANG. It had a really, really ugly day on Friday. Bounced up, tried to break through the alert there yesterday. We're still away from the trend here, so there's no rush on this potential move. Let this rest or consolidate now. My guess is today could show a little bit of pressure back to the downside on this. So just be patient, wait for that potential trade to pop through. Also, take a look at ExxonMobil, another alert I've put on the chart. Its volatility has been a little bit less, chopping in a very small range, and might even be making that range even smaller. As you can see, it's possible I may move my alert from here, move it down to here if we continue in this tighter consolidation here, looking for that next pop to the upside. So watch that carefully here on ExxonMobil. And you can see a lot of the same kind of things in many of these stocks out here in the energy sector with that push back up. Take a look at Conoco. Take a look at Occidental trying to come up through a downtrend. Still, this is pretty bearish. This has got to break through this downtrend and resistance before I'm going to be any kind of happy with it. Take a look at Valero on the refining side. That made that nice move. There's that higher low. We pop up, rest over to trend, and there we go. There's your bullish move. So we're seeing some of those coming along. Even if we take a look at XOP, oil exploration, notice the break of the downtrend here. Pop through resistance, resting yesterday, tried to get going here. Might be pulling back a little bit today to give another opportunity. If that rests a little bit longer in here, I would still look for that opportunity to the upside in XOP. Other places that you might want to take a look, boy, take a look at some of the financials and particularly pay systems. My goodness. My position here in SQ, I couldn't be happier. I'm up huge on this trade, and it's still looking very good. Now, I am holding this as a longer term hold. hold. For those of you that know me, I've been holding this since back in here on SQ, and if you take a look, really nice move here yesterday. I would expect a little rest or pullback to come in this at any time, but boy, these pay systems really showing some strength here for this move, possibly pushing through resistance right in here. So watch that. A little rest or pullback would set up the next opportunity. Take a look at PayPal. PayPal continuing to look good, as you can see, resting back here. Nice little resting, consolidating pattern. Coming back here to support. Trend is out here, so watch for that opportunity in here for PayPal to come around. When we look at Visa, doing the same thing, pushing up, resting here over to trend. Yesterday started to make that move to the upside. Watch that carefully. You can see the same kind of thing. Bullishness in MasterCard, pushing up off the trend here. Got support right in here. Watch that area here for that next opportunity for that to push on higher. A lot of good going on in there. If we look at XLF, the big banks here, may have a little bit more rest that needs to happen to come back to trend, but you can see that bullish consolidation forming up in here nice and tight. So just look for that opportunity. If those bulls find reason to push this higher, that could be the easy pop to the upside, and we see that continue to extend. So I would keep a close eye on some of those financials. Now, Roku had an interesting move yesterday. Roku looked to me like there was a real threat here that we could be beginning a downtrend. We shot down hard last Friday, but nice pop-up yesterday. So if we can regain this area of price support and hold in here, then I would still have that opportunity, or I would still be watching this for that potential that we pop on through this downtrend in the chart. So keep a close eye on Roku. Now, I will tell you, I think the chances of Roku going up or the chances of Roku going down right now are about 50-50. So we really need to see a little bit of a rest in here, or that full-on breakout of that downtrend. Just go ahead and continue to show that bullishness, push right on through, then rest back, and I'd be looking for an upside in that trend somewhere right in there. So keep an eye on Roku trying to come around. Now take a look at Humana. Humana was looking pretty good. We had 3 days of fade back to the trend, and unfortunately we've kind of given up this line that I put in here, but you could see that line that I put in there also included the wicks of these candles. If I pull that down to the candle tops, we're still holding in there just fine on that chart. So watch this carefully. If Humana can get some love today, look for that possibility that this could pop on through and might start moving to the upside in the chart. So watch that carefully. Of course, I am still a little bit concerned about Apple, although it had a good bullish move yesterday. We still have that potential in here of that bearishness showing up in the chart. So watch that carefully here on Apple. If we were to see this follow through to the downside, break through this area here, I would be watching for the potential short, because that would be a break of a 50-day and a 200-day moving average all at the same time. So just keep an eye on that. Not looking overly healthy here at the moment. I'm really liking the way DOCU is looking here. DOCU, if I move this trend line out here, that's looking pretty darn good. We're resting back in here. Look for that next opportunity in here. If that can find some support, find some trend in here, look for that next opportunity for that to move on through. And you can see how very similar that is to this pattern here. So every reason to believe that that can push on higher here in DOCU. So there's a few stocks for you to pay attention to. I apologize, I was a little bit late on getting this video today. My browsers on my computer, they changed to a new browser, a new update on the browser. So every website that I needed to get to, everything I needed to go to prepare the video today, the website challenged me as to who I was. So it just took forever this morning. Thank you for being patient. I want to wish you guys all the very best today. Be careful, be safe. I'll see you right back here bright and early Wednesday morning. Have a great day, everyone.